Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the pre-show chat for the Irish Songbook, the first concert in Confluence Concerts 2023-2024 season. My name is Larry Beckwith. I'm the artistic producer of Confluence Concerts, and beside me is Patricia O'Callaghan, who is an artistic associate for Confluence and the curator of tonight's program. And in a minute, Trish and I will engage in a little bit of a conversation about what you're going to hear tonight. Fascinating, wide-ranging, entertaining, touching journey through the history of Irish melody and poetry. From a long time ago till right up to the present. We want to acknowledge that today is Truth and Reconciliation Day, the national day of commemoration, and I'm wearing a pin which was designed by Kerry Newman, who's the brother of Marion Newman, who was an artistic associate for Confluence Concerts. It's a beautiful commemoration of the survivors and also those who didn't survive the residential school system in Canada. And Kerry has made a documentary. He was involved in a huge monument called the Witness Blanket, which is, his team went across Canada and took artifacts from every single residential school across Canada and made it into what he called the Witness Blanket, and it's now in the National Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg. But there was a huge tour and everything, and there's a documentary called Picking Up the Pieces, I think it's called, The Making of the Witness Blanket. And if you haven't seen it, I really recommend it to you. It's a beautiful, it's educational, and it's also inspirational, and it gives you lots of ideas of how we can move forward. I also want to call your attention to some upcoming concerts. Unusual for us, but we have a concert in 2 weeks' time. So next weekend is Thanksgiving, and the following weekend we hope you'll be back here with us for Wounds Turned to Light, evening of new songs by James Rolfe. And he has set, on the encouragement and in fact the commissioning of the poet George Eliot Clarke, he set the poetry of a number of Toronto poets through the pandemic. And so I think we're performing about 16 of those songs, and about 8 or 9 of the poets are going to be here with us, including George Eliot Clarke and James. And so I'm sort of trying to recreate, or at least delve into the spirit of an event that he had when he recorded these songs. Just before they recorded them, they did an event at the Canadian Music Centre where all the poets were there. And each one stood up and talked a little bit about themselves and read their poem, told us about the poem, and then we heard James's setting of the poem. So it's going to be a bit of a different, not really a traditional concert, it's more like a salon, like a Schubertiad, a Rolfiad, I guess we can call it, where the poets read their poetry and we'll hear the songs. I think it's going to be really special. Tricia's involved in that one as well. So you made a trip this summer to Ireland, and I wondered if we could just begin by you telling us about your trip and how it connects to tonight's program.
Yeah, so I got a grant before the pandemic to go to Ireland to study Sean No's singing, old style Irish folk singing, and Irish language. My father is from County Cork, and he went to school in Irish, and he's now 95, and so I just felt a real yearning to not lose this language that is already so endangered. So I finally went this past summer, 2023, and I went to a Gaeltacht, so a place where Irish is spoken as the main language in the town, and there's a school there, Idris Gael it's called, and so we had 5 hours of language class every day. And then every evening we would have either poetry reading or singing, and then after that, or a ceilidh, we dance, and then we go to the pub, and there would be a session, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was just so amazing. And I also went to Dublin and to Fermoy, where my dad is from, And I met with some old friends, Diana Navarra and John Hess, who are longtime Canadian musicians on the Canadian music scene, conductor and pianist. And they retired to Dublin. So I had a lovely meeting with them, which ties into this concert.
And how does it tie in? What is the? they have a quite important project that they initiated. Yeah.
I wasn't sure how far to go. If there was another way you wanted to go. John, who is a collaborative pianist and a coach and a teacher, he was a teacher of Yolanda Tapia, our pianist for tonight, and was my mentor at U of T, and Miranda Mulholland actually. A really great mentor and teacher, and his wife Diana is a conductor originally from Dublin, and some of his students were asking him, are there any Irish art songs? And he's like, well, let me check it out. So he started researching and only found a handful in existence. And so he and Diana just thought, this will not do. And so both of them together applied for grants to the Irish Arts Council and got money to commission 50 different songs, 50 art songs in the Irish language. And so they commissioned composers from all over the world, young and old, using poetry from 5th century right up to modern day. And so the first half of our program will be a selection of those art songs. And we've got some Canadians, Anna Pitcorna, English, Irish, a whole variety of composers. And they're so exciting. It's just so exciting to have this whole canon of songs now that didn't exist before. And they were finished just before the pandemic. They were going to do 3 evenings of concerts in Dublin, and they were on lockdown, so they didn't I think they got 1 concert in, and then that was it. So many of these songs have never been performed before, and this will be their world premiere, which is great.
Certainly their Canadian premiere.
Definitely.
All
of them are Canadian.
Yeah. Well, I know from my perspective, I've learned 2 of these songs, and the website that they've created through the Irish Music Centre, I guess it is so well put together. That you have the scores of the pieces, the songs. You have the poetry. You have performances of the poetry. So recordings of that have been made of
just the poem.
Yeah.
So you can hear the pronunciation.
And you have phonetic IPA text, and then the Irish text, and then the translation.
And then the translation and a recording of it.
Yeah.
It's all free.
Yeah,
it's great.
it's quite an amazing resource.
It really is.
So how did you spoke to them about this project, and how, they're obviously very passionate about it. How do they feel? Has it been a success for them? How have they sort of evaluated how it's gone so far?
That's a good question. Ireland was pretty strict lockdown-wise, and I think, they're just coming out of it now, and I don't know how much these songs have traveled. It's hard for me to tell. They're really thrilled that we're doing them here, and Diana is really passionate about Irish language and Irish language song. And she's fluent, but she still studies. She goes to all the translation courses. She's just, Irish language and being able to read literature in the Irish language and read poetry and really understand the subtleties of it. She's absolutely passionate about. But I think they're really happy with the way it's gone.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So I just wrote this question down. I don't know whether Well, I'll just ask it. What is it about the Irish language that lends itself so well to music?
It's a good question. And on first hearing, when I remember as a child, I would listen to Irish folk songs, and I only liked the English language ones, and I would hear the Irish ones, and I'd be like, oh God, that sounds just so weird and harsh. But then I thought that of German too, and I love singing in German now. But it's... I don't know, because I'm only a beginner Irish speaker. Are there people here who are fluent or speak some Irish? Hello! Oh, yay! Amazing! the subtleties of it, it lends itself so well to poetry. And you know, you can really chew on those words. Just out of curiosity, would either of you have something to say about why you think it lends itself so well to song and poetry?
It's been done for centuries. I mean, it's so central to the language. I mean, that the songs, especially the Shawnee songs, are so central. So it flows naturally.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think,
Just one second, sorry. There's a man behind you.
Sorry. Well, I guess for me, I didn't understand the differentiation between art songs versus what I'll call just Irish songs that I grew up with and would have been the normal. So those things were kind of usual for me. So I guess hearing them from a different perspective, that's a funny question for me. They just made sense the same way that the rest of the songs made sense.
I like that answer. It was just the way it was. It's so good. Go ahead, answer.
Yeah, I think too that it's not just the language, I think it's also the Irish temperament and culture.
It's the Irish temperament and culture, that it's not separated from it. Oh, that's...
I think that informs a lot of the music.
Yeah, it's really true. And so, just to say, Irish art song and Irish song, you understand, like these art songs, a lot of people may not even know the art form of art song. Do people understand basically what an art song is?
No.
Okay, yay, okay. Yeah, I mean, because I come from a Western classical tradition. And so the songs of Schubert, Mahler, Strauss, Britain, yeah. There's a tradition of often they will actually take folk songs and art songize them, right? They'll make them fancier, and they won't be as rhythmic. For example, there will be a phrasing to them and a breathing to them that is not rhythmic as a folk song likely will be. And anything else you want? And harmonically, the harmonic structure will be different and more sophisticated. It will venture into different territories. It will develop more fruitfully, I suppose.
Yeah, and I would say art song is generally a voice and a piano as well. So it doesn't have the wide range of instruments or traditional instruments. So, well, that's a great kind of lead into the arc of the program, the way that you've designed it. So you've got, because it takes quite a journey, this program. Maybe you could describe it.
Yeah, so the first half is this selection of art songs, and so I would say probably none of you have ever heard any of them before. It will be all new material for you, and most of it is in Irish language, so we've got translations there for you. We've got a couple of, I think we've got one English language song and one fiddle tune in the first half, but then the second half is Irish folk song, is Sean Knows, is a variety of folk material. Yeah, and a little more than that. I think that's all you need to know. Yeah. And it's not in your program, I guess. So oh no, you've got the names, right? You've got the names. We've done a little bit of switching up of orders, so we'll try and announce them from the stage just so you know where you're going.
Yeah, and this is a good time to remind you, as I'm sure you were reminded, that you can scan your program for the texts of the program, and I hope I've also sent out the house program to as many people as I could. And in the second half, we'll do a little bit of description of what the songs are about. But I know one of the ones that I'm very excited about doing is I had this album by Van Morrison and the Chieftains in the 1980s, I guess it was, that came out. Fabulous album of all the great Irish tunes. And so Star of the County Down is his recording of it is just one of my absolute favorites. And when I went to St. Thomas's Anglican Church, I realized that it was also the melody of a hymn that we sing quite often. So we're actually giving you a little bit of that hymn as well before the folk song. So there are little treats like that in the second half. Can you talk a bit about the performers that you've put together? Because there's, again, such a wide range of talents here.
Yeah, so let's see, where do I start? Miranda Mulholland is, well, she's a classically trained singer, but also has been playing violin and fiddle since the age of 8, I believe. As she was getting her degree at McGill and Western, she would go to the pubs on the weekend to earn money and just play in the pubs. And that's where she sort of learned to become a fiddler. And I think there was a guy she had a crush on, so she would just go and so she kind of, and now, so she's really much more part of the folk scene now than the classical scene. Tim Posgate, who plays banjo, mandolin, guitar. That's what you play on this show, yeah? An amazing multi-instrumentalist, part of the folk scene, part of the jazz scene. And we've worked together a couple times before. He's done a Confluence gig, or a pre-Confluence gig here. Yolanda Tapia from Mexico. I met her this summer at a program that we did at the Banff Center for the Arts for young, emerging career musicians. And she's an amazing young pianist with so much fire, so much talent, just a beautiful player. Mariam Toller she's an Egyptian Canadian singer, songwriter. She also plays a few different instruments, and she also loves Irish music. And we went to Ireland together to do a gig back in 2014, a Leonard Cohen gig. But we both went and we bought Bowrons, and we're both like determined to become good at them. Neither of us is yet, but. And who am I missing? Maeve Palmer, who did a gig with us last spring. And she started speaking to me in Irish, and I was like, is that Irish that you're speaking? I don't think I'm catching every word. And I found out that she speaks Irish. She's doing, or has finished her doctorate in voice at U of T, an amazing singer, but also has been studying and singing Sean Nose side by side with her classical singing. She's just wonderful. And who am I missing? You. I think that's it. I think that's the gang. Yeah.
What's your favorite Irish song?
Oh God, that's really well. It's always changing, but there is one that Maeve is singing tonight. It's a Sean Nose called Eleanor Aroon, and I think it might be the most beautiful song I've ever heard in the world. And the melody is so mysterious, and the ornamentation is, so intricate that I don't know how many times I've heard it, but I still can't penetrate it. And so it's a puzzle that I just keeps calling me back.
Thank you. This is going to be great. I did want to also, I did talk about the James Rolfe concert, but I wanted, in November we have a concert, a big celebration of the 20th anniversary of Suba Shankaran's band, Auto Rickshaw. Just the three of them, Suba and Ed Hanley, who's here tonight, and Dylan Bell are going to take us on a tour of the history of their great outfit. And in December, our young associates for this year, the Kung Duo, who are a percussion duo, but just a multi-talented group, have put together a program called Dreams of Home. They're both from Hong Kong, and so it's a Hong Kong-inspired program, which I think is going to be really great. And then more treats in the new year as well. So thank you for being here tonight, and we'll see you in a little while for the Irish Songbook. Thank you, Trish.